How you doing, everybody? It's Carpo here. Well, I'm going to do another video while I'm trimming and chatting because I have a lot of work to do and I can't seem to break away. I've been meaning to make a video for the last like 2 days, but every time I think about it, I'm just totally distracted. So it's because I've been clipping and it's just an ongoing process for days. I got my magic nippers here, so I'm just going to do it and make a quick chat about this and all the thoughts that go through my head when I'm in my Zen state, which is what this is when I'm doing this type of work. Anything that I'm really hyper focusing on, I go into a Zen state that's almost like it's an intense mellowness. It's very difficult to explain, but I go into a lot of different thinking patterns about things, and I've been thinking what I really wanted to voice in this video was people talk about, what is the purpose of life, and it's become such a joke, it's just such a cliche remark, what's the purpose of life? What are we here for? And the answer, in my opinion, is growth. The only thing that we're here to do that is, how do I say, you can't argue the point that growth is something that all humans benefit from. Mental growth, of course, and this comes in many different forms. Now, we've taken this approach to life that growth means having more. And I know that many of us have seen through that illusion, and we know that there's much more to life than possessions. We're more fortunate than our ancestors, I think, in the sense that we can see their follies through the historical record and see where they've gone wrong. But most importantly, we can see where they've gone right. And who have been some of the happiest people in history? Who have been some of the people who have been able to feel good about life and feel motivated? And it's those who serve their man, serve fellow man, serve the world, serve the universe, but it's also those who serve themselves, and it's also those who have a greater purpose. It's those who have pleasure in their work. It's all these different things, but to sum all these things up, you can only say growth. Now, on the subject of reincarnation, I don't really know what I believe, if anything, about reincarnation. But let's just say it's true for a moment. The idea is that if you don't resolve the issues that you have within this lifetime, then you will have to return to face them in the next. Or that many of the issues in this lifetime are caused by previous problems in other lives. Now, that idea is open topic. I mean, everyone has their own opinion on whether we, have these bodies or not. And what happens is many of these arguments get into, theosophical debates and religious debates. So if we remove the religious component from it, if we remove the means and the way and the method to which one attains their degree of enlightenment, if we remove all the methods, all the paths, we're left with only growth. One person thinks that growth means joining this organization and doing this so they can serve this side of society, and another person thinks that growth is serving this part of society. And they're all right. Everyone's right, as long as they're growing. And this is the key element that I think we're missing in life, is that what we deem to be important is not important. And people may say, well, to each his own. And yes, to a degree that's true, to each his own. If one person chooses money and another chooses enlightenment, that's an individual choice on both sides. However, if you view the world as a single collective, then you believe that we are influenced by others' actions and by the way that others behave. But if we set aside all the arguments about why the things happened in history, almost all the wars and battles have been over, greed, politics, religion, and it's not just about the reasons why we go to war. What we do is we look back and see what we've done wrong and say, why? And what it means is that we're not doing it right. We as humans have not been living properly. And so we ask ourselves, has any one particular group or organization or belief or political group done better than the others? Which would lead one to believe that there is a natural law regarding doing the right thing. We don't observe that, though. We don't see any one particular group who's doing better than others or doing great. It's pretty evenly, it's pretty even across the board as far as how the universe distributes wealth, goods, happiness, services, a whole variety of people. So what group of people are the ones that are actually happy? It's not an organization. It's not those who belong to a church or those who belong to a, or those who have a particular amount of wealth. It's the ones who have found truth within themselves by understanding that life is about growth. And this means being able to wake up each morning and admit your faults to yourself. Admit who you really are. And not just how we want to see ourselves. There is the mover within, the administrator of the mind, the administrator of our actions. And this administration is based upon many preconceived notions that we have about the way that the world should be. It's also based upon the experiences that we've had as individuals and as collective groups. And all of these different experiences prepare us, or maybe not prepare us in many cases, for the things that we endure. And here's where we go wrong. When we run into a problem, we try to go around it. Or, in today's world, we try to put it off on someone else. We try to make it look like it's someone else's problem. They're the one that's shallow. They're the one that needs to change their way of thinking. They're the one that has the opposing view that's wrong. And very seldom is this pointing the finger actually justified. Because when we're pointing the finger at people merely for what they're believing, as opposed to what they're doing and how they're acting, then we've missed the whole point of growth. Isn't it human nature to want to belong to the group that's right? Everybody wants to think that they have the right answer, and that's just the world we live in. It's like that. So, growth being the key element for humans, the key element to existence. And going back to what I was saying about reincarnation, and the reason I brought that up was to say that regardless of whether or not it's true, would most people not agree that growth within the life is rewarding in this life at the very least? Because often we dispute, people will say, why should I act proper? Why should I be fair? Why should I not take more because I only live this one life and that's that? That may be true, but the actions that we partake in, that we commit in our lives for our own selfish actions are the ones that, bring society down. The ones that cause the problems that we are facing right now. And so by looking around at the world and seeing that it's not all it's cracked up to be, not all that it should be, The world is what it should be, but the people are not what we should be. And therefore the world is going to go through some major changes, and it's going to be unpleasant for humans. Back in the ancient times, they believed that the actions of man affected the weather, and affected the earth. And then we learned over time that that wasn't necessarily true. Now we're starting to find that maybe that is true. That maybe there is something to it. The quantum realm to some people is untouchable. That little miniature, like Schrodinger's cat, not knowing what anything is until you're actually observing it, not really knowing what's going on behind closed doors. What's the world really like? But we have to explain it to a degree, so we say this is what it is. And kind of along that path, I think that we miss what we're supposed to be doing, which is growing, becoming better people. So, what is a better person? And this is, to kind of add to this, this is one of the problems I have with many of these motivational speakers. These guys who talk about the now and embracing the moment and living life to its fullest and not being negative and seeing through the illusion, but meanwhile missing many of the main points of what it means to be human, the experiences that we can't deny that we have. In other words, we can play mind games all day long, and I've seen some pretty wild debates going on, over just the silliest ideas. Actually, there are these two channels I subscribe to, which I've never commented on. I just look at the titles of the videos. It's this one guy, well, I'm not even going to say their names because it's not fair. I don't like doing that, but they're basically arguing back and forth, like every single video each one of them posts is a response to the other one about, and they're arguing about physics, science, really detailed spiritual aspects to physics that are very difficult to comprehend for the average person. And I find that these debates end up being more about, not just with them, but with everybody. They end up being more about who is right rather than what information is being conveyed and what is being shared. When did it become so shameful to say, hey, you may be right? And it's our own defense. And so here's my roundabout point, is that not buying into the argument, not buying into the debate, and don't get me wrong, there are constructive arguments where we intend to resolve a conflict or an issue which we don't understand. But when one person can say to the other, you know what, you're right, you changed my opinion on this, you might be right about that, that is growth. That's growth. That's being able to see yourself for who you really are, and not fooling yourself thinking that you're always going to be right about everything, because everybody was a teenager once, and I'm not going to say all teenagers think they're right, because I know there are a lot of teenagers with low self-esteem that don't, but for the most part, most teenagers tend to always want to be right about things. It's just something that comes with that the hormones and the age, and so you get into these arguments about the silliest of things, and you grow up from it, and eventually you learn to take on arguments which are constructive and helpful. So my question, I guess, is, what happened? I mean, we learned about these things, we learned what was a waste of time, but we continue to fight about silly things. So my only conclusion that I can really derive from that is that we're uncomfortable in trusting others and making friends and letting our guard down because we're afraid of being seen as being maybe weak. And over the years, when I was younger, I guess a good example would be the gay thing. When you're a teenager, everybody's like, oh, you're gay. They'd always make jokes to people, anybody they can make fun of about being gay. I guess it was big in the 90s. Maybe today it's not so politically correct, but in the 90s it was, when I was in high school, early 90s, it was like that. And you're fag, you're gay. And it's funny because a lot of people were very offended by that. They were very bothered by it. And for me, it was a growth experience to say, you know what? I'm not gay, but I'm going to wear a dress anyway. I would wear this big white flowy skirt down at the park, and I would put my hair into braids. Point being that, at age 15, I'd go to dead shows, stuff like that, and my ego was so low at that point. I really didn't care. But I wore my dead shirts, I was into the tie-dyes. I wanted to fit in my groups too. So I'm not in denial. I grew from that experience too. But that was just kind of a off the beaten path little story there. But me being seen in a skirt is no different than me being seen to be wrong or to be different or to have a different opinion. And people are afraid to speak their opinions. They're afraid to be honest with themselves. We don't do what's right. We do what we're used to doing or what we think we want to do. And what has it done for us? What have we gained? Where are we right now as a species? Fucked. But I don't see it that way. I just mean I see the problems that we're facing, and the reality is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I understand that, but I don't see any negativity in that. I don't stress about it. The earth is going through its cleansing process. It'll take time, and we'll go back to the way it was. Meanwhile, man has the chance to find our way out of this maze. We actually have an opportunity to grow beyond. I know we've given up on a lot of things. If you go, the environment's screwed and we're screwed and people are just evil and mean, and it's all based on ignorance. It's all ignorance. Being ignorant of the self and the divine purpose of the self. And regardless of whether or not you believe in a divine purpose. Growth is a purpose that humans can live by. Personal growth that any elder will tell you is the most important thing. Family, growth, understanding, tolerance, patience. Why do our elders tell us this? When you talk to someone who's dying, what do they say is important? Love your family, care about people, your community. Many of these people spent a lifetime in doing exactly the opposite of what they're saying to do, and that's why they're saying it. Because there's so many people who want to live better, who want to be better, but are afraid to be exposed and taken advantage of. They're afraid they'll appear weak. I understand that mindset because, I've been stolen from and ripped off, and I am very opposed to people who do that, but I don't get overly nervous or anxious about people. You just have to put trust in people, and when you do, you start to find a lot of good things in life. You start to find that people smile back if you smile at them. And these little things that we learn, these are all part of growth. But growth isn't something that you just read in a book. You cannot gain spiritual wisdom from just reading about it. These are things you have to live and practice. Things we all need to live and practice more. Myself included. And don't get me wrong, I'll put that as a disclaimer. I'm just as culpable as the next guy, but my personal growth, I'm hoping, is adequate for me to be happy in life, and so far it's worked. I've become a very, very happy person by being this way. This is why I convey these messages. This is why I find these things so helpful to me in my life, because I was hanging out the other day with an aunt I haven't seen in, God, 1998. I think I saw her briefly, but I wanted to get back together with family because that's growth for me. And I realized my mom and her had a falling out. We have a small family, just my mom, my brother, and I. So all I had to go by was what my mom had told me about her. And I didn't know what to think. And I'm very glad that I went and met her. I'm glad that she came over here, and she's on a very strong spiritual journey of her own. And I felt myself reflected and resonated within her. And she's been through a lot. I learned a lot about her life, and you don't realize the impact that we have on people in such a small thing. I haven't seen her. I didn't know if she thought about me or not, but the minute we saw each other, it was like emotions flowing. I mean, it was great. And the only reason that I hadn't spoke to her sooner is because of my mother and her's experience. Now, I'm using that as an example to show how we tend to take other people's word for it as to what's going on in the world. And somebody may not like another person, and not just people, we're talking about situations, places, things, ideas. Oh, I don't like that bread. Bread's not very good. Oh, really? Okay, I won't get it. No. And we start relying on other people too much. And, to a degree, it's very important to use other people's experience to help our own. So don't get me wrong. It's, if every person tried to be the first, tried to try everything, for the first time, and took nobody's word for anything, we'd spend a lot of time poisoning ourselves and causing a lot of health problems and whatnot. But anyway, we have to listen to those who are telling us certain things, even if we don't. We may want to experience, kind of like telling the teenager, don't do this, you're going to get hurt. Or telling your kid, don't jump on the bed, you're going to fall down, and then they fall down. And it's one of those things you all have to experience, so each person has to experience this. Each person has to experience this growth on their own, and when we rely too much on other people for what that growth is. And an example to give you one, I guess, would be going to church. And there's nothing wrong with religion. I'm actually, I think that religion can be a very great thing. I agree with Manly Hall's take on it, that religion is one of the most important things that a man can do, so long as his religion never imposes itself on anyone else. So that's kind of out of the question with most religions. They all impose themselves because that's just the nature. But I think that's because we've attributed the word religion to mean certain specific religions. But I think that we can make a religion out of make a religion out of service. Make a religion out of growth, individual growth, because no one's going to do it for us. And I've come to an understanding in life that I wish I could share, but I don't feel like I have the ability to vocalize it. It doesn't have words. It's that Zen. It's an experience of oneness. And people talk about it. I'd heard about it, but I had to practice it to get to this point. It's not just something that you wake up one day and you're just one with the universe. I'm still separate. I still have my ego. And by not trying to get rid of that, never try to fight against your ego and who you are. Just try to change the way that it operates. Don't use it to make yourself look better. Use it to make others look better, or use it to help people. But each one of us has to do this growing on our own. Each one of us has to do it based on what we've observed around us and what we've seen others do. I know this is a long video, and anybody who's made it this far, I honor you for actually, it's, I know I talk a lot, and it's really hard for me to get to the point, but I guess I'm making the same point over and over, which is that I've found solace in being who I am. And rather than fighting against who I am, I look at every challenge as an opportunity. Okay? I look at every situation and negative event as an opportunity for growth, to learn something from it. And when you change that perception, you stop looking over your shoulder. You stop worrying. You stop wondering what's going to happen next week, because your attitude is bring it on. And I'd love to see more people like that. I know a few people who are like that, a few friends, and they're pleasurable to be around. People who see the world positively. And those who don't, I've noticed they tend to always think that they're positive. So there are people that think that they're positive. They claim to be happy, they claim to be positive, and maybe they are happy, but they're not positive. These are the people that every time you see them, the first thing they do is complain about something. And, complaining is nothing. No, there's nothing you're going to gain from complaining, and others don't want to hear your drama. Unless it's something that's an actual problem. Don't get me wrong, there's a difference between somebody who's telling their friend, hey, I'm in a lot of pain because I had this, problem arise, or, that I lost a loved one or something. I'm talking about the person who says, yeah, I'm all pissed off at my phone company because they did this and did that, and then the next thing you know, they're talking about, what's wrong with the world. And so I guess that's where I want to go with this next, is complaining. Those who talk about what's wrong with the world, it's usually a reflection of the individual's negativity. I've noticed that many people who claim to be positive aren't, and many people who also claim to be well, let's just put it this way, I observe around me a lot of people who constantly find something wrong with everything. And it's been my observation that more often than not, these people are unhappy, and that the reason that they find negativity in everything is because they've trained their minds to do so. Because it's a victim stance. It allows one to sigh and say, I knew this was going to happen. I knew we were going to get screwed. See, I told you that the government was going to do this. I knew they were going to do that, Oh, see, my neighbor really is doing that. Or, I knew this person was crooked. Negative thinking does absolutely nothing for people. It's like negative prophecies that may or may not come true. It's like the people who talk about the what ifs, and these are the ones who we all need to confront in life. And this is I guess what I mean by that is that we all have to deal with them. And so it gets a little bit old sometimes, Let's just put it this way, It's really hard to wake up from the dream of what life pretends to be, or what we've been told it is. It's even harder when you've woken up to the point where you've had your coffee, you understand it, and you've assimilated this knowledge. This is what I've done over the years. I've taken all this knowledge and ideas that I've learned, and all these hopes and ideas and dreams, and assimilated them into a format that's useful for me. Not drawn conclusions, but made the most of it and made it work. And I think that's what it is. It's applying what we learn to grow and to be better, and to be happier, and to make others happier. It's all about growth. And there's no one path to growth. Each individual is going to have their own part to contribute. Everyone can't be a carpenter, Anyway, to wrap this up, I guess, yeah. We all can't be the same thing. We're all not going to have the same approaches to what life has to offer, and we have to embrace the variety and look at what really has worked. So rather than the idealism that we carry about how things should be or would be or could be, let's talk about how things really are and figure out ways to work around the problems that we currently face. I hear a lot more complaining than I do solutions, and that's what I choose to ignore, is the complaining, because it just sucks people into that negative paradigm, and it does absolutely nothing. Negative thinking or dwelling on bad things has never done anything to help bring about good things. And we have to remember that. It's just a fact. Talking about things in a negative light has never brought positivity to them. Finding the light of positivity, or trying to make it work for us, is the only way that we're ever going to move past this. And so today I have faith in humanity. Today I think that we might be able to change. Sure, the world's messed up, we got lots of problems. But today I think it's possible. Tomorrow, I might not. I go through many stages of, positive and negative thinking, and anyway, so that's what I got to share before this video ends up being an hour long. So, yeah, it's too zen. Take care.